you know, I think we all grow up with a very strong understanding of our vulnerability as human beings in this landscape. You know, this is a cold land. You know, it is. We have very hard winters sometimes. You know, we can always expect an earthquake, or we can always expect a volcanic eruption. So you're really aware of your vulnerability. You know that the human being is quite small when it comes to dealing with the great natural forces.
I think you can't escape being influenced by Icelandic nature and the weather too. When you come to Ísafjörður, you see that we grew up under a steep mountain. So in a sense, I feel that I carry that mountain with me wherever I go. So it's always a point of reference in a certain sense. Everything I see and experience in the world is sort of compared to that landscape. We're in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and in a country that is in some ways unique. I think the landscape here is in some ways unique, and the conditions here are in some ways unique, and the language probably reflects that. We've been isolated here for so long. So the weather, it resounds in the language. There are certain words, you can hear the wind when we say the words.
Encounter this great force, which is of course, I mean, in the old days, was the big killer of man in Iceland, because you had to go out and on your little rowboats and fish, and so the ocean. I mean, even though it's very beautiful, blue and calm in the summer, you know what a monster it is as well. Yeah.
I also think that you're always reminded of how small you are, because you are born under the steep mountain, and then there's very little land, and then you have the sea. There are a lot of fishermen in our town, and you're always reminded, because the sea is sort of wrapped fishermen, always drowning. It was like a tradition, almost, it's hard to say it that way, but yeah, so small.
I'm in a way, also playing with the element that nature, the time in nature is completely different than the time of man. We just live and die, and we live and die, and we live and die. But the mountain is still there, and nature is behaving as it always behaves. So a story placed in the mountains in the winter is a timeless story. It's very difficult to call it an old story, because if you would go into the mountains now with just a gun and a rucksack, with some provisions, you're in exactly the same situation as somebody who went there 200 years ago.
what draws me back is that the power you're getting. You know, it's like loading the batteries. You go there, and like in Greenland, you promise yourself, you're freezing. I'll never come back. But you stay here for a week, you want to go back. There's something magical about it. It's the same here in my country when you go up to the island and the mountains. And it makes you really like feel you're stronger, and it really you feel you're a part of it. So when you're lying on your back in total darkness and on the ice, and it's -30, and you watch the sky, and you've never seen. It's like a bunch of needles in the sky. It's like so many stars, billions of them. Then you feel, you know, how small this our planet really is. It's our home. It's our only home. We have to respect it. We have to show it, you know, that respect that it will survive everything. So we can't go anywhere. But watching those stars and seeing how small we really are makes you think about your own home, how great it is.